Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us this morning for our Boynton Beach Women's Business Council meeting. We are so glad that you took the first hour of your day to be with us this morning. Those that don't know me, my name is Jonathan Porges. I'm the market manager for the Boynton Beach market for the Boca Chamber. And I am joined this morning by my coworker, Allison Muccio, who will say a few words in a minute. And we are so thankful to have Leslie with us this morning for this great presentation.
I will turn it over to Catherine to introduce our speaker.
Thank you. I'm honored to announce our speaker for today. She is Leslie H. Tayne, Esquire, founder, managing director of Tayne Law Group. And Leslie is an award-winning financial attorney and author of the book Life and Debt. She has over 20 years of experience in the consumer and business financial debt solutions arena, which includes negotiations with large international banks and credit agencies for loans, lines of credit, credit cards, and student loans on behalf of clients. Leslie is the founder and manager of the director of Tayne Law Group PC, a law firm headquartered in New York, dedicated to debt solutions and alternatives to bankruptcy for individuals and businesses. Leslie is a frequently sought out for her expertise on financial, credit, and debt topics in the media and as a speaker. She regularly provides experts insight into all areas of debt and credit-related financial topics through outlets like the Huffington Post, Yahoo Finance, U.S. News, and World Report, MSN, CNN, and NBC. It's quite impressive. Welcome, Tayne.
Good morning, and thank you so much for having me today. I'm actually here in beautiful South Florida and very happy to be here in the warm weather, and even though spring is in bloom up north. So today, for the way that I normally like to manage programs is that I'm going to turn my video off. I'm going to screen share a PowerPoint. Most of the time when we have a large group, we don't do an interactive. So I like to keep questions for the end and discussions for the end. In this particular program, there are a couple of spots where there are questions that can become topics of discussion. My only concern is I don't want to run away with those particular topics because then we won't be able to move on. So we're going to talk about those questions and you can write down the answers and we will leave the discussion for the end of the program so that everybody then has an opportunity to participate. So with that, I'm going to turn my video off and I'm going to share my screen and you should be able to see everything. You should be able to see everything. I'm going to make that full screen. All right, so today we are going to be talking about persevering and succeeding in a traditionally male-dominated industry. I am Leslie Tayne. I'm the founder and director of the Tayne Law Group in New York. We have 4 offices there and offices and satellite offices all over the place. We service clients all over the country as well as internationally. My area of concentration and expertise is in credit and debt. And with that, we help consumers and business owners resolve debt, consider alternatives to bankruptcy. We don't file any bankruptcies. We renegotiate basically unsecured debts like credit cards, student loans, lines of credit, and merchant cash advances, and very complex at times business credit matters. But we also service basic matters like credit card debt. So you might be asking yourself, all right, Leslie, so with that expertise, what makes you why would you be talking about this topic? Well, the reality is that the industry that I'm in is I'm in a multifaceted industry. I'm in the law industry, I'm in the collection industry, the debt industry, the finance industry. So with that, I have over 20 years of experience in those industries, which are traditionally male-dominated industries. And so I have been able to persevere and succeed tremendously in what is considered a traditionally male-dominated industry. So I feel very comfortable and confident talking about this particular topic today. And I look forward to your thoughts and interjections as we move along here, because the reality is that, you know, with all the news of the past, near daily stories of sexual harassment, assault, gender inequality, and other issues do affect women in the workplace. And that has reinforced the fact that we still have really a long way to go here in terms of a male-dominated world. So we're going to be talking about steps to become a more effective leader, how you can grow your business and your career. Your career really is your business. So with that, how that interjects and how that marries into the world that we live in. Emotional intelligence in terms of and leadership and how that impacts your business. Communicating effectively in the workplace to make sure that you're heard and understood, and that you consider your own opinions important. Seeking out opportunities for growth, and some actionable tips for persevering and succeeding. So with that, I want to talk a little bit about what you might consider a male-dominated industry, because the reality is that when I speak to other women about their experiences in the workplace, many women, depending on your age, will define a male-dominant industry differently. So think about your experiences, and it might require you to think about what really is a male-dominated industry, and we're going to touch on what that might look like and what the reality of that actually is. It could refer, in your case, to your current work environment. It could refer to a former work environment or work experience. It doesn't have to be an actual job. It could just be even just an experience that you had. So do you consider that you work in a male-dominated industry? And how does it really affect your career? And these are some things I want you to think about now, because it's going to be important in terms of our overall discussion. Your male-dominated industry, your office may be all female. You might work in what you would consider a female environment, but is it a male-dominated industry? So your workplace and industry really are two different environments. Workplaces where you might go every single day, and the people that you see on a regular basis could even be your clients, but your industry is the overall global industry in what you work in. The question becomes then, if you think about the orientation of this industry, how does that orientation of the industry actually impact your career? You might be thinking, well, why is that really important? Well, it is important because the industry itself will trickle down into your workplace, and there are people making decisions about in your industry, and as a result of those decisions, the impact of those decisions and culture from that decision is definitely going to impact your career and your work environment. So if it's a female-dominated environment, how does that potentially affect your future, or does it? And finally, do you believe that you might have missed out on opportunities, maybe because of your gender? Do you think that you were disadvantaged in any way? Really give some thought to this. And I want to talk a little bit about my story and my history. So I started out, I wanted to be an attorney for a very long time. My father said to me, you don't want to do that. It's not a good business for women. And so clearly I didn't listen, like most kids. I was really very focused on becoming an attorney, and it really isn't anything he could have said that would have changed my mind, but certainly his negative spin on it made me question it and say, what does that mean? You know, as a young woman at 18, 19, 20, and thinking my father said that's not what you should do because it's not a female-friendly industry, I was thinking to myself, what does that really mean? I really didn't understand what that meant at all. I certainly understand what it means now, but I didn't understand at the time. So I entered into this realm of what was the law industry through law school, and half my class was female. So at that point, it wasn't impacting me. When it started to impact me, honestly, was when I started to look for jobs. And I was interviewing, I remember, for a position at a large firm, and I was interviewed by 3 or 4 male partners. And I remember after the interview, my father had known one of the partners, and I asked, well, how did I do? And they said, you did great. They think you're terrific, but they're concerned that you're going to favor one of the partners over another. I said, well, I don't even understand how could that be? I said, well, there was one partner asking more of the questions. So perhaps they misunderstood my response that I would, how would I favor it? But that's really a misogynistic perspective. And if you really think about the message that was being sent to me was some sort of, it was definitely, I don't think that they would say that to a man. I'm confident that that wouldn't have been said to a man, that, oh, by the way, you'll favor one of the male partners over another. So that was my first foray into the legal world. I then ended up, my first position was doing criminal work with those who had already been convicted of crimes for a very short period of time. That was really interesting. But then I ended up in the as in-house counsel to a debt company, and I started to really get involved in the collection world. And the collection world is completely male dominated. Once I left that and I started my own law practice, I needed to network to create business. So how do you network? You need to go out and find and build relationships. I was building relationships, and I remember one time I went to a firm, a collection firm. They were lawyers, and I was sitting there, and one of the head partners came over and patted me on the head. And I was so taken aback by that type of experience. Like, why would you pat me on the head? It was like demeaning and demoralizing. And these are just some of my early experiences. I mean, I could go on and just do an entire program on stories like this, but those are the experiences that women have in business or had in business at times that impact their feeling about how they are perceived in business, and also how they act and interact. When you're patted on the head like that, do you feel that you would want to speak up? You feel demoralized and you feel smaller, and you don't want to speak up because at that point you've already been told that you're not that as important as everybody else. And so with that, it becomes a situation where women then can't speak out or don't feel comfortable speaking out in a male-dominated environment because they have been demoralized, and that shuts down their ability to really grow within an industry. So with that, I really decided at that point that I was not going to allow that to impact me, that I was going to always maintain my professionalism. I was going to stick my hand out and shake somebody's hand. I was not going to allow that male-dominated type of behavior to impact me. I was going to be taken seriously. And I say that because it's really a conscious effort. So the first step in really understanding this is standing up for yourself and taking charge in the workplace. And it really isn't easy, especially if you work for people like that. So I didn't work for these people. They were colleagues in my industry, but they were powerful colleagues, and they had a lot of contacts, and they had been in the industry for 40 years. So, and I was young and very bright-eyed and wanted to learn the industry and get to know, but they taught me a very valuable lesson right there. They taught me exactly what I was going to expect. And because I was very aware of that incident, I then took that incident with me for the rest of my career, the next 20 years of experiences. And I said, I'm not going to allow that to happen to me. And I'm not going to allow myself to be treated. I'm going to be treated with respect. So some of the things that I learned to do is when I would walk into a room at a networking event, I would be assertive. I'd stand up straight, put my shoulders back. I would wear what I would consider appropriate clothing. So nothing revealing, nothing that would give anybody any opportunity to say something to me. And I would always keep the conversation professional. So that included, I didn't take a drink at networking events. I didn't allow myself to become vulnerable. I was very, very aware of my environments. And I became much more assertive. So that's really my first tip for you here is awareness. Be aware of the environment that you're in. And that was the purpose of the questions that I posed to you. Those questions give you food for thought and an opportunity to become aware of the environments that you work in and experience on a regular basis. Once you become aware, you can take the next step and look at what it is and how you want to be perceived in that environment. If you want to be perceived and taken seriously, how can you be assertive and be serious at the same time? Don't apologize for yourself. There's one thing I never do is unless I absolutely make some sort of mistake and I have to go apologize, but I don't apologize for who I am or what I am. I am perceived as I am a very successful attorney. I am very well known, certainly in the environments that I network, but I would never apologize for myself. And so I put myself in positions where I didn't have to apologize. I'm not going to talk about my weaknesses. I'm only going to talk about my strengths. And that's part of being assertive. Standing out in meetings. One of the things that I said when we first started here about having a conversation group-wise is that some people will stand out more than others. Some people are more comfortable talking and speaking than others are. So how would you stand out in a meeting? Well, you have to go back a little bit to the first few steps. One is being aware of yourself in that meeting, and two is practicing being assertive. So one of the ways that I practiced all of this was if I saw a group of people at a networking event who were speaking and talking to each other, I would walk over and say, "Hi, everybody. I want to introduce myself. I'm Leslie Tayne. I'm a financial attorney. This is what I do. I would love to hear about what all of you do. Can I join your conversation?" That is not easy to do. And that feels really uncomfortable, especially when they stop talking and they look at you. And they're looking at you because you have been assertive. And at that point, I didn't apologize and say, "I'm sorry for interrupting." No, I wanted to step in and I wanted to be a part. I want to learn about who you are. That's who we are. If I felt the conversation wasn't going to be productive, then I would leave, but that's based on what's best for me. I'm not apologizing for myself. So that allowed me to stand out in meetings. It also allowed me to make friends. And I started to make a lot of friends at these events and really learn to network effectively and stand out from the crowd. So I spoke a little earlier about what you consider a male-dominated industry. I did a little research on it, and these are some male-dominated industries that are, as you can see, predominantly male, but that is definitely changing a lot. It's interesting when you hear about, at the bottom, the aircraft pilots and flight engineers, and when you hear a female pilot, think about yourself on a flight and you hear that it's a female pilot, how you're almost taken aback by the fact, oh, it's a female pilot. But why would you be taken aback by that? There are women who fly planes all the time. In fact, I was trying to get my pilot's license at one point, a private pilot license, not for commercial aircraft. But so there are plenty of women who are involved in these industries, except that you might be surprised. Like when you see a construction worker and that construction worker is a female, you take note of that. Same in any of these basically male-dominated industries. But it's certainly changing, and the environment will change as long as we on the outside of some of these industries and within the industries expect women to be there, encourage women to be there, and feel comfortable as women to be there. I think what ends up happening, especially from law, many years ago, law was really a male-dominated industry. It's obviously since changed, but there are still many of the large firms where the majority partners had been male, and that had always been a very uncomfortable environment. And in fact, in my industry, even myself understood many of the stereotypes. When you were hiring young women, you said to yourself, how long is this woman going to give me in this business? Is she married? Is she not married? Is she going to want to leave after she has her first baby? And all of that then becomes problematic as far as the stereotypes go, because if that prevailing attitude continues, then what ends up happening is these male-dominated industries will continue to stay male-dominated. So it's important that we break that barrier and we break into these industries, even when they're challenging industries and male-dominated. These are some common female-dominated industries, and it's interesting, it's the same thought process when you see, let's say, a kindergarten teacher who's a male, or in any of these businesses here, you take a step back and say, wow, I didn't realize that This person would be oh, I have a male preschool teacher for my child. You're taken aback by that. So it's the same, that stereotype can kind of run in both directions. But again, if we take note of what these industries are and you're a part of these industries, you can reshape the industry as well as reshaping your own career. So here are a few more questions I want you to think about and write down the answers to, because I think they're really important when it comes to understanding what it is that you want to achieve within your industry. And those are, what are the qualities of a leader? What would you consider leadership qualities? When you look and you write down those leaders, ask yourself why not you are not a leader? And are those leadership qualities, can you assign a gender to those leadership qualities? Do you feel in any way that those type of qualities are related to a male-dominated quality or a female-dominated quality? And I'm going to give you just a minute or two to put that down, because we are going to come back to this at the end and have a discussion about what these qualities are and why you might consider them male or female dominated. And I'm going to tell you that the likelihood is that you're going to write down these leadership qualities, and you're probably going to think of most of them as male dominated. But write them down, give some thought to it, and then we'll come back to it at the end. So where does leadership really come from? Leadership comes from within, and it's important that we examine it a little bit more closely. The art of leadership can actually really come from within you. That again requires that awareness piece. You give what you get, and your team, when you're a leader, is going to mirror you and the way you work and the way you lead. If you're positive and you work hard to accomplish your goals, then you set your team up for success by communicating that effectively. They're going to follow in your footsteps as well. And that's as an effective leader, it's important to remember to stay positive, focused, and assertive in a way that you are communicating your information effectively to your team or whoever that you're working with. Leadership isn't just a team. Leadership also comes from an industry. In my business, leadership comes from my ability to manage a particular file or manage a client. So I'm leading that client in a particular way. In order for me to be an effective leader for my clients and my staff, I need to communicate what it is that the strategy is and what it is that our goals are. Leadership is very, very complicated and definitely doesn't always come natural. It's an area that requires constant work and introspection, as well as a examination of what it is that you're doing, how you're doing it, and are your goals as a leader being met through your team. If you're finding that your team is not meeting your goals or objectives, the question becomes, is it a team problem or is it a leadership problem? It's really a very complex topic, and with leadership, we could have an entire discussion just on leadership, but I don't want to get bogged down by that too much. So secondly, a large part of being an effective leader certainly is remaining positive. It doesn't mean that you're not tackling challenges or that you're not feeling stressed, but you're looking for solutions and you're continuing to try to motivate your team and motivate yourself. Turning negatives and showing your employees or your team that you're overwhelmed is sometimes okay. It's okay to be vulnerable as a leader. It's okay to let your team know that you are feeling that the experience that you're having is stressful, that the experience that you're having is feeling overwhelming, but that you have a plan in place. Vulnerability is okay for a leader. And lastly, I believe in leading and working with certainly a positive intention. What does that mean? So I choose to believe that everybody means well and that that the glass is half full, so to speak. So I try to shift away from negative thought processes and negative communications. I lead with not the word no or not when I'm speaking. I'm speaking constantly to my team about, we can do this, we can make this happen. And it's important that I am not only feeling that, but showing that. So it's the way that I'm communicating it as well. It's the words I'm using. It's the tone that I'm using. It's the inflections in my voice as well. I know that when I speak to a client on the phone, the moment they get me on the phone, that I can resolve something in less than 2 minutes, whereas sometimes my staff needs 20 minutes to explain that to my client, and my client can still sometimes be confused. So with that, when I get on the phone, and I often train my staff this way, I suggest that they listen to the inflection in my voice, listen to how I'm speaking, because the tone in my voice is leadership based. So with that, it's important, again, to be aware of the type of leader you want to be, the type of leader that you are communicating, leadership that you're communicating to your staff, and that through times of challenges and stress, that it's okay to explain that you're feeling stress. Let's talk about COVID for the last year. So last March, when things were being shut down, and certainly in New York, where we were on a forced quarantine, my staff is looking to me to say, hey, what's happening here? And it's okay that I said, you know what, I don't know what's happening here, but we're going to take this one day at a time. I'm going to be here. I'm going to show up, and I'm going to we're going to move through this process, and we're going to get through to the other side best that we can. So it's in times of difficulty, as a leader, you really can't lose it. You can lose it when you go home, but at times you can't lose it. And if you do lose it, you have to be able to come back and say, hey, I had a moment of vulnerability, and that's okay. I can improve, and where our team is headed and what we're doing. And that kind of leads us to a discussion about emotional intelligence and leadership. Emotional intelligence is becoming more important actually than, let's say, IQ scores in hiring, since emotionally intelligent leaders can often handle pressure better. They can diffuse conflicts very skillfully and foster a better sense of camaraderie among teams. Being emotionally intelligent actually refers to 5 key elements. And those are: 1, self-awareness. Being self-aware means that you are knowing what you're doing in the environment, that you're not just going off the cuff, but you are impacting how other people think and feel. And by doing so, you are
We have a technical issue here.
leaders show employees gratitude regularly. So you might be thinking, well, how is this impacting, let's say a male-dominated industry? So again, all of this will help build yourself up and build you to a place where you will stand out in your environment, and you will be able to be looked at a little bit differently. And that's what we're going for here. So 3rd, making your own choices. We don't always make the smartest choices, and that's okay. We all make mistakes, but admitting that you made a mistake can be very, very challenging. An emotionally intelligent leader will always own up to their own decisions, certainly whether they worked out or failed, or continue to remain transparent and dedicated. I certainly have said to my team, that wasn't a good decision. This is how we're going to handle something like that next time. Emotional management. Managing your emotions is a key characteristic that emotionally intelligent leaders do possess. It doesn't mean that you'll never get angry or upset, but rather that you'll choose to manage those emotions and respond in a productive and positive way. And that is a really key element in managing in a male-dominated environment. So, vulnerability is okay, but there comes a point when you need to choose to manage through intelligence, and manage and be responsive and aware of other people too. Empathy is really key. And if you are just so self-absorbed, you're going to have difficulty with empathy. And without empathy, you will have a challenge, certainly as a leader. Practicing empathy is super important, and I can't underscore that enough. Understanding your coworkers and employees' perspective and emotions can make it easier to communicate and connect with them. In a male-dominated environment, you need to understand that you're in that environment. You need to understand how males operate together in a male-dominated work environment, what type environment it is. Is it professional? Is it a blue-collar type of environment? What is the culture there? How long have those employees been there, those coworkers been there? All of that is an understanding of how you're going to be in that environment. And I learned very quickly to assess people and assess environments and be able to read people very quickly, especially men in a male-dominated environment, and what they were looking for. And again, by really keeping things, my goal number one was always to keep things professional. And by keeping things professional and understanding the environment, I became not only self-aware, but aware of other people, and that made me a very strong leader. So let's take a look a little bit at your communication style. Think about that. How do you like to communicate effectively? It's not just your team, it's your coworkers and clients as well. So this isn't just about that type of, it's not just always being somebody who's in charge. There's communication, and effective communication has to come at any level when you're in a work environment. How well do you know your employees and colleagues, and how do you make your staff feel valued and your coworkers feel valued? You know, it's another important aspect to understanding these. Seeking out some growth opportunities. So for leaders to continuously grow, opportunities have to be sought out. They don't just always drop in your lap. So as much as you should encourage professional development for your team, you should also grasp opportunities for yourself and pursue them as they come along. Consider yourself a sponge and absorb as much as you can. Every single day is a learning environment, and every single day in different, in not only in your work, can you learn to learn and grow within your work environment. And I'm just going to take 1 second because it seems that my front door is ringing, and I want to take care of that so it doesn't keep ringing in our ear here. So with that, seek out the growth opportunities. Consider yourself a sponge. Look for continual ways to improve yourself and your leadership. The questions that I asked you earlier are really to help you take a look at yourself and look for opportunities for yourself in different growth areas. What needs to be improved? What needs to be worked on? And where do you see your weaknesses? Recognize your weaknesses and address them. One way I like to improve my leadership skills is not only by attending leadership and conferences, but I read a lot about leadership. And I also observe a lot in other environments. I observe when I go to Starbucks. I observe other people in different work environments, and I say, you know, what do I see that's effective here? What can I take back to my own firm? What can I take back? And I really do enjoy my time with other colleagues, other attorneys, and especially other female colleagues, in talking about what their struggles are, what their strengths are, and what they've done to get to the top of their firm and the top of their field, and learn from their experiences as well. I think it's really important that you not isolate yourself when it comes to seeking out growth opportunities and your leadership skills. Seek out real world. I mean, the books are great, and that's very helpful, but when you can have an ongoing conversation with colleagues or friends that have grown in their own industries and talked about their own experiences, you too can learn from their experiences. And I really do like to listen to my male and female colleagues. I have actually a board that I have two very close colleagues, and one is a male, one is a female, and the three of us meet about every other month and talk about our experiences in our firm and our experiences as leaders and what we can do to constantly improve that. And I think that having a place where you feel safe and you feel comfortable talking about every aspect of your business and yourself as a business person is important, because it allows you to get out what's on the inside, hear and yourself speaking, and get a different perspective. So I encourage you to find some colleagues on a regular basis and have these conversations so that you can grow not only as a leader, but as a business person as well. Make sure that you're taking responsibility at work, get serious about your growth and start taking on some more challenges or tasks. There's nothing wrong with going to your colleagues and coworkers and leaders in your own business and saying, I'd like to take on some more responsibility. How can I do that? Believe in the win-win in a workplace and try to find solutions that benefit everybody rather than just looking at a conflict or a strategy from one-dimensional from you. Really strive to push the envelope. Don't settle for the way things have always been done. One thing I really can't stand hearing in my own office, and that is a button for me, is, and I'm very aware of that, is this is how we've always done it. So I don't like this is how we always have done something. Things may have been done a particular way in the past, but things change, environments change, clients change, and we need to be able to make adjustments with that. So while things may have been done away in the past, and it's okay to say, this is our current program, this is our current process, how can we improve on that? Every day is an opportunity to improve on that. Be very open to receiving feedback. I always leave my door open. I want to know what's going on. I listen very carefully to what's happening in my office. I want to be a good leader. I want my staff to feel really confident when they walk in the door, that they know that they're working for somebody who is steering the ship, that the environment is a stable environment, and that they learn from my ethics and I am at the foremost of every decision that we make is doing the right thing. That's the and it hasn't been challenging for me to do that, but what's challenging is the industry that I have been in. So the industry that I've been in is the collection industry. And if you're not familiar with that industry, you probably have a number of thoughts about the industry, and many of them derive from experiences that people have had in the collection industry. And I've had those experiences as well. But just because other people act badly or other people behave in a way that's not as ethical, and that's what goes on in the industry, that doesn't mean that you should as well. So I've really worked very hard over the last 20 years to stand out from debt settlement companies, from debt consolidation companies, from the collection industry. I don't want to be grouped in those categories at all. I am an attorney and I have a law practice that concentrates in consumer and business debt resolution. And yes, we might do some similar things, but there's no way my business is similar. It's not run similarly, and my goals and objectives are very, very different. And by differentiating myself from the pack, I believe I've been able to grow and create opportunity in my own space. And give 100% of everything that you do. Effective leaders are dedicated in every aspect of their job. No job is too small for me in my office. If there was a bathroom and I needed to clean that bathroom, I would do it right in front of my staff, because I'm not better than that just because, I have been running this business, or I drive a fancy car, or I make the big bucks. It doesn't matter. It's my business. It's my baby, and I'll change its diaper and I'll clean it up, whatever needs to be done. And I need to show that my staff that I am that person there, that I am that leader, and that no job is too small. And I walk in every day with a smile and say, every time I see the Tayne Law Group, when I walk into my office building, I smile and I try to bring positive energy with it, no matter what is on my shoulders or thoughts, no matter what kept me up the entire night before related to business. I walk in and I say good morning, and I try to push the positive energy into the environment that I work in so that my staff feel that and they're happy to be there as well. So there's a real feeling of accomplishment that I personally experience, and you'll experience, when you know you did everything in your power during your workday to be as effective as possible. And really, as a leader, and in these environments, even in male-dominated environments, your energy is read by other people. So if you're going to walk in there with moody or a bad attitude or anger or stress, or you're going to be harried, everybody around you is going to feel that. Everybody around you is going to know that. And unfortunately, if you're in a male-dominated industry, you're going to get labeled, and you're going to be labeled bitchy, bossy. You're going to be labeled a lot of very negative connotations. And you as a female, we have to work together to be aware that unfortunately these emotions and feelings get labeled in a negative connotation. So being super aware of what you bring into the office and what you bring on a daily basis is really important. And while unfortunately there's still a lot of old school thought, we have the opportunity to make that change. So those are some actionable tips that you can take here. Take on additional responsibility, believe in the win-win, strive to push the envelope, be open to receiving feedback, and give 100% in everything that you do, and remain professional at all times. So I think now is a really good time for us to talk. We have a little bit of time left. I'm going to put my contact information up here so you have a minute to jot that down. You're welcome to contact me at any time. Follow me on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. TikTok is coming soon. We're working on that. LinkedIn, we put out a newsletter on a regular basis. If you'd like to get our newsletter, it's really informative on so many ways, and we have thousands of people who subscribe to it. So please feel free to do so. We don't bombard email boxes, so we're very mindful of that and very respectful. But please follow me. We're super active on social media. We have a very big marketing department. With that, I'm going to go back to the camera so that we can have a conversation. I think that there's been a number of questions that I posed, and if anybody would like to be a part of that, I would really like to hear.
Let me go back to the gallery mode.
So Allison and Jonathan, though, you'll post her information to the group later?
Yep.
The attendees? Actually, Leslie, I have a question, if you don't mind. Just if you could expound a little more on your definition on how, or give examples on how to be assertive so that you're not considered bitchy or bossy.
So there's a time and a place for assertiveness in a work environment. I believe very strongly in having good listening skills, and you actually can be assertive by having very good listening skills. Let somebody else speak and then turn around and say, so I'd like to understand what you've spoken to me about, so I have a good understanding, and reiterate and repeat back to the other person. And that gives you an opportunity that the other person understands that you're on the same page, and it will improve your confidence level in being assertive, because you will then be able to engage in a conversation, and you'll be able to be understood that you were heard and you heard what was being said. So assertive isn't just interjecting yourself and saying, this is how I want it done, or I don't think that we're doing things right here. That's not necessarily a professional way to approach something. I believe it's important in a conversation to say, I have a suggestion, or I'd like to make a suggestion on the strategy that you've been talking about. I was wondering if we have considered doing it this way. I have been giving this some thought, and again, interjecting yourself in an effective communication way so that people hear what you're saying. I think assertiveness becomes bitchy or bossy when it's not effective communication, when you're speaking out and you are almost barking either an order, or you're saying, I don't agree with how that's done. So I think it's the tone that you use, it's the language that you use, and I think also assertiveness. Don't be afraid that your opinion is going to be wrong. I think that's what happens, that you're afraid to speak up because perhaps the other person has a very strong personality and you might be concerned that you're going to be shot down. Say, I understand that a decision is already made. I would like to ask if this has been considered, and you just have to keep practicing it.
Very good, thank you.
Do you have any other questions?
Does anybody want to talk about what an experience that they had that they were able to turn around in a male-dominated environment, or how I would love to hear how other people have become leaders in your own industry, what you've done over the course of your career to help yourself be heard, be more assertive, and be a good leader or an effective leader. If anybody wants to speak up.
Sure.
Sure. Leslie, this is Karen Lawrence. I was in the mortgage industry, which was extremely male dominated. And I found that a little bit more difficult. I found it intimidating, but like you, I also had that positive attitude, and you're extremely invigorating, and with your attitude, it's very inspiring. And some days, sometimes you get the feeling it's hard to fight and you get tired of fighting. And you seem to have this untapped or a large wealth of this positive energy. And some days I wish that I could tap it from you, if you know what I mean. So I do understand and have been through a lot of the things that you have, because I also did a lot of networking, afraid to go to a group of men to go up to talk to them. So I've been through what you've been through, and I'm very glad to see you where you are. And now I'm in real estate, which is primarily female dominated. So you have to be a stronger female to be in this industry. So thank you.
Oh, and thank you for sharing that so much. The mortgage industry was just like the debt industry. It was a very challenging and male dominated industry and very cutthroat. And
Yes.
we've touched on the mortgage industry a lot in my business, since we resolve judgments and liens and debts that are impacting one's ability to get a mortgage. So I have been in that industry and I know it well, and I know exactly what you experienced, and your experiences are validated for sure. So with that, it definitely carries a lot. It is intimidating. I love that you brought that up, because that's a word that I didn't use in this topic, but it is intimidating. It's intimidating when there's a group of men, or when you feel that they're not going to take you seriously, or that it's a boys club. I'll tell you, when I first started my law practice, when I left being in-house counsel, I had an attorney who worked with me. I brought a male attorney I went to law school with me, because I didn't think as a female that I would be taken seriously. So I thought I needed this male attorney with me. And in about 60 days into our partnership, I said, you know what, this isn't going to work. I'm going to buy you out. And I got out of it. And I just thought that, from the golfing experiences to the networking experiences to even the judges, it was all males. And I thought that I was not going to be able to be taken as seriously as I would have, or gotten into those groups, if I wasn't with a male partner. But he was not for me, and I got rid of that very quickly, and I just persevered and made it on my own. I don't let that bring me down. First of all, at this point in my career, I'm not intimidated by anything or anyone.
You seem that way. Yeah.
There's nothing that I can't handle. And if I feel uncomfortable, I'm very aware of my own feelings. If I feel uncomfortable in a situation, I ask myself, why am I feeling uncomfortable? Is it an insecurity within me? Or are these people that I don't want to be around, or don't want to be working with or networking with? And then at that point, if I'm in a group where I feel uncomfortable, I'll say, gentlemen, it was nice to meet you all. Here's my business card. I look forward to speaking with you again in the future. And I turn and I walk away.
I think that's very wise. I should have done that more often. I didn't.
Yeah, Patricia has a question.
Yeah, not a question, but I just want to chime in. And Leslie, I love this whole conversation, because this is exactly what I help my clients with. And one of the most important things to all remember for everyone here is, whenever you're feeling that intimidation feeling, you do have to ask yourself in that moment, why? Because that's going to give you your thought. That's going to give you what you're thinking and believing in that moment. And you might be thinking and believing a story that it's not even true. Right? We conjure up these stories about that group of men, what they think. I'm working with a female executive right now, and she's having a lot of lack of confidence, feeling of sitting at the table, right? And once we worked through that, she's a thought leader. She deserves to be there, and everything has shifted. It shifts how she feels now, and how you feel drives how you show up, how you behave, what you do, and it drives what you don't do. So those are and you're 100% right. Those are preconceived notions within her own head. And that's why some of these questions I've asked, how do you feel in those environments? Is it them or is it you? And sometimes it's you coming from experiences that you've had in male dominated environments, or the way you were brought up. Again, I was brought up
listen, I grew up on Long Island in a wealthy suburb of New York City, but my father told me that it's not a good job for women. So think about the experiences that I've had, and his entire firm was all men. The only people who worked in it who were women were the secretaries. So that's what I saw growing up. So you take those experiences into your workplace, into your future. And even though you might not be able to hear that at that time, those are impacting your feelings and thoughts when you're there. So when you're looking at a group of men and you're feeling intimidated because you don't feel like you're going to be taken seriously, that's the point where you have to become aware, like you're teaching your clients, you're aware of that, and you say, you know what? I'm really good at what I do, and I would like to talk to these people. I'm going to walk in and have a serious business conversation. Hi, I'm Leslie Tayne. Nice to meet you. I'm a financial attorney. Can you tell me what you do? And one of the things that I always do is I turn it off of me. I turn the focus off of me, and I want to hear I let them speak first so that I can get that. They'll let their guard down, men and women. Their guards will come down. They'll start talking about themselves. And then again, I said this earlier, be a very good listener in those environments. And part of the listening is hearing what's inside your own head and what's inside yourself. How am I feeling here? And I've said that to myself. How am I feeling here? Am I feeling intimidated by these men? They're all partners in big law firms, and I shouldn't be intimidated. I'm equally as successful. So sometimes you have to get into your own head and talk to yourself in those environments when it's happening.
Well, I wouldn't say sometimes. I would have to say all the time. You have to be a monitor of what's going on between your temples, because truly that whatever's happening is up here is giving you the results that you have today. So if you've got that little default thought in the back of your mind that this is an intimidating environment, I don't deserve to be here, that's what's running the show. No matter how much you try to positive think your way through it, this thing is running the show. And that's where you got to get down under and ask yourself, is it true? Is it true what I am believing? And then show evidence to your brain where it's not true. And
you have to work through that, and that's probably what's holding one back, holding us back in those environments and getting ahead. So, it's the same thing when I take on new clients, and sometimes the matters are super complicated and I'm seeing something interesting for the first time. I really feel very strongly that there's no ball that's pitched to me that I can't hit in my business at this point in time. And if you've been in your business a long time and you take that confidence with you, and if you can't, you have to have resources also to help you with that. So mindfulness, really getting out of your own head. Again, those conversations with people like yourself or colleagues, so that you could say, hey, you know what, I was feeling this way in this environment. Get some validation or thought-provoking discussion about how you were feeling, so that's not internalized, and then you carry it into the next situation.
We are right at the hour mark. I know, Sarah, you had a question. I want to make sure you can ask that real quick before we finish up.
Thank you, Jonathan. I'll be super quick. Leslie, thank you for sharing. I just wanted to share a quick example of what you were talking about. And I think the difference between being in a male-dominated industry versus a male or female environment. I worked with a female financial advisor at my last office who made a point to always give me credit for the work I was doing. So she gave me the confidence to get in front of men clients and share my expertise. And I think I just wanted to reiterate that as women, we all feel a little bit nervous about these conversations. So if there's ever an opportunity where you can build someone up or give them credit or encourage them to share as a woman, I would definitely suggest that, because it made all the difference in my office, the way that other advisor kind of boosted me up. So that was all I wanted to share.
Well, thank you so much for sharing.
Thank you, Leslie.
Well, thank you, Leslie. This was a great topic. I know Allison and I appreciate your time and your generosity for sharing with the group this morning. Thank you all for who attended the group this morning. We just want to mention that our next meeting will be on Friday, April 23rd, and our speaker is Michelle McGovern, Baptist Hospital, or Baptist Health System, sorry, excuse me. And so with that, I feel a little bit more motivated to get into my Friday. And with that, I wish you all a happy weekend. Allison, do you have any further?
No, Leslie, that was fabulous. I think, one of the nice things is we record our program, so this will be available on YouTube. So if you want to watch it again and pick up a few pointers, or if you want to let other people know, please go to our YouTube either later today or Monday, and you can watch it and just feel very, very motivated, like Jonathan said. So Leslie, fabulous presentation. Thank you.
Thank you so much for
Thank
having
you
me.
so much.
Good luck
Have
to
a great
everybody
weekend,
and
everyone.
stay strong. And if you need me, please don't ever hesitate to reach out to me.
Thank you, Leslie.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.
Thank you.
you.